Hello, you are listening to Bor-Kothoki, the poetry podcast. And today I have a guest, Bidyut Goswami, and I don't know much about him, so we'll try to discover about him while we talk. And hello, Bidyut, welcome to Bor-Kothoki.
Hi, thanks for inviting me to your show.
How is the weather out there? That's the most diplomatic question to start with.
Okay, the weather out here means Seoul, South Korea, so it's pretty cold here these days. It's the big winter, so the temperature currently is, I think it's -1 or -2 something, but it's warmer than the last week because the last week there was some cold wave, so we had temperatures like -10 or something,
Okay,
so
that's
which
pretty
was
cool.
pretty cold. Yeah, and then when we checked the temperatures yesterday and today, I saw like -2 or -1, and then I was like feeling okay. I mean, telling to myself that it's warm, and then I was laughing at myself that the definition of warm has become changed because
Yeah,
prior to South Korea, I was in Abu Dhabi, Middle East for
okay.
a couple of years, and then the definition of cold was 35,
Okay.
and now the definition of warm is -2 degrees centigrades. So yeah, it's been cloudy, sometimes bit of drizzle, and yeah, it's relatively warm but still cold.
So it's basically mostly about how you look at things. So it can be warm or cold depending upon your situation.
Yes, of course, and that's what it has been all along.
It's like life only. So before we start, let me tell you the concept behind this show.
Sure.
The concept of this show is to talk with so-called common people and let them express their thoughts with the help of poetry. And the basic idea behind this thought was to encourage all people to at least read poetry. And if they like it, they can also try writing poetry. So, and this show will be unscripted, so you can go wrong about it. So you can speak about anything, even it's not related to poetry. We are just trying to understand what goes into the mind of a poet and how it inspires or what makes them write a poem.
Okay, okay, nicely put. Actually, I mean, to be in the safe side, I wouldn't put myself on the as a poet, or I would rather place myself as a common man, as you had rightly said. And I think everybody writes poem or sometimes story or something, and more often than not, people draw their inspiration from their daily life or the incidences happening in their life. So I'm no exception to that. So like we always have share of good and bad moments, happy and sad moments, and yeah, we tend to people tend to write things when they are happy or sad. Sometimes, yeah, it makes you, sometimes you feel like relieved when you write something, to see it in a piece of paper. It's a process of like organizing your thoughts in a way. And then when you see something similar which is happening inside your mind, outside in a piece of paper, and through that feeling that you are basically sharing that thought with other people. And at the same time, when you write poetry, I mean, I think it's more applicable in case of poetry, maybe sometimes in the shape of stories as well. It gives you a sense of anonymity as well, that you write whatever you feel, share with other people, yet you don't share, because
Very true.
it's something you write inspired by some thoughts, but then not necessarily the reader will have the same thought. So it places you in a spot where you have the feeling of sharing, yet hiding. So it's sometimes it's a beautiful spot to be in for some people. I mean, most people, I guess. I mean, that's why people write
It's like what
poetry.
you said in the beginning, like it's all about the perspective. It can be warm or cold depending upon the
Yes,
weather.
yes, exactly.
So, what makes you write? Like you might be having a different kinds of thought throughout the day. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it keeps on swinging.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps on swinging, but for me, personally, it's not the mood, rather it's the moment. Something there is some trigger in some moments. Like you see something, it can be a very common thing which might be happening on a daily basis, but someday you look at it in a different perspective. Maybe a dewdrop falling from the tip of a leaf, maybe people traveling in a bus. You see all the people there immersed in their own worlds, and then you see the same people traveling in the same bus, but all those 30-40 people are having different thoughts in their mind. That diversity sometimes can trigger something, that okay, you were surrounded by people, but everybody has their own story to tell. So it's not a swing of the mood, I would say. Rather, it's a trigger of a moment which makes me feel like writing something.
So it can be anything, like watching a movie also can trigger.
Oh yeah, it can be anything. Like sometimes, I mean, most often, you go to an emotional state when you don't speak for some time. You are watching the moon. You are sitting on the beach or something like that. In that situation, normally people tend to get emotional, and they like dive into their own world of, I mean, imaginary world, or things they imagine. I mean, it can be like that also, and it can be a very regular thing, as I had mentioned earlier. So, which can make you feel like writing. For me, it's like both the things has happened with me. Sometimes you know that okay, you were enjoying such a beautiful scenario or such a beautiful moment, or maybe you were having such a devastating moment or a sad time, then you feel like writing. So that's like a large scale scenario for you when you feel like writing, and you are almost certain that like so much of emotion is going on through your mind, and so much is happening that you feel like writing. But sometimes it's a momentary trigger that you see something and then immediately feel like writing. And sometimes it's a depth of a word, maybe. Sometimes you hear or you read some word, and then the very depth of that word. For example, yeah, I can't think of an example right now, but yeah, like for example, you hear a word like void,
Okay.
and then the depth of the word itself is so huge, so deep, that sometimes just hearing the word, I mean, as we are talking, the I'm telling you the word void, it may not trigger that whole
Mhm.
avalanche of
Yeah.
emotions inside you, but when you hear it in under certain circumstances, or when you think of that word, then sometimes suddenly it triggers, and then you feel like writing.
I have read a few poems, and I have seen that you have written poems in both Hindi and English. So, what do you prefer?
I prefer Hindi.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I have
So,
written couple of poems in Assamese as well, but
okay.
I definitely prefer Hindi. Like Hindi would be my first choice if I went to.
Any
I
particular
mean,
reason for that?
uh, I don't know. I just love the language Hindi. I mean, it's so flexible, and it's. I mean, I don't mean to say that the other languages are not flexible, but it's just that I find it easier to express my thoughts using Hindi,
Maybe
and
it's for you that you think in that language easily.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I have watched so many Hindi movies, or I have listened to so many Hindi songs, particularly ghazals. So I have listened to ghazal, like, I mean, since I was a kid. I don't know where from that interest grew, but since I was in school, I mean, not normally not many kid would like to listen to slow songs like ghazal, but I was like very much into ghazal. I mean, and when you when I had and that was because of I used to like listen to the lyrics. I mean, the words were so expressive, so emotional. I mean, the lyrics of a ghazal would essentially be very nice,
Yeah.
and yeah, and in Hindi, like, you have the flexibility of using many Urdu words as well. So, like, I have a long-term dream of learning full-fledged Urdu.
Okay.
But like, when you listen to songs written by Javed Akhtar or Gulzar, then essentially you end up learning a little bit of Urdu.
Yeah.
So when you listen to those songs, and then yeah, if I do not understand some particular words, then I would look up in currently I normally go to the website called
Okay.
rekhta.com.
Websites.
Yeah,
Tools.
yeah. So then you learn new words, and yeah, I love Hindi, to sum up.
uh, Even I have a very huge influence of Hindi film industry and ghazals,
Yeah.
and most of my thoughts have some influence of this Hindi film music and ghazals. So, sometimes I just like one word and I just play around that word.
Huh.
Does it happen to you?
Uh, I mean, for me, it's like sometimes, as I said, it's when you like some songs very much, and then it's like you tend to get carried away by that song or the poetry. So you end up writing like similar. I mean, then you realize, like, when you finish writing something, you feel like, okay, maybe I just copied whatever I had heard. So yeah, it in a way, I think it happens with everybody whoever tries to write.
My next question is like, have it ever occurred to you that you are playing around a novel thought, then suddenly you see that there is a song being played in the TV that is in the same lines.
Uh, I don't, to be honest, I don't remember, partly because like I have stayed outside India for last 6 years, and you don't really get to watch TV where they will play Hindi songs. I mean, you don't even watch TV at all. So when you feel like, okay, this song is coming to my mind, and you want to hear the actual song or the poem, then I would end up playing it in YouTube. It would happen only if you were listening to radio or TV that you were thinking something, and that song, you just suddenly hear that song. But if I remember correctly, like when I was a kid or when I was in India or even in Assam, sometimes you would like think of some song, and then you would hear I would hear my sister singing it. Then I would get confused that while whether I was doing a loud thinking, or maybe she was singing earlier, and that's why I was thinking about the song. I'm still not sure which one is true.
What are other things that you do apart from poetry? I have seen pictures of you like playing guitars and singing songs.
Oh, apart from poetry, like I play guitar. Like music is one of my like first loves, you can say. As a kid, I I had learned tabla. I did my Bachelor of Music in tabla. Uh, I learned tabla when I was, I guess, 11 years old. I was in fifth standard. That's when I started learning tabla, and then after doing my Bachelor of Music in tabla, I took like 3 years private tutoring, lessons for guitar.
Okay.
That's when I was doing my bachelor's. Then I didn't learn anything when I was doing my master's. But then when I went to Pune for my PhD, that time I was learning flute.
Okay.
Then
Flute also.
yeah, and then I went to Canada. In Canada, uh, I had a very brief coaching for saxophone,
Okay.
and then yeah, that's it. But because I had played tabla, I used to. I still play an instrument called djembe.
Okay.
If you have heard of, djembe is an African percussion instrument. So yeah, as I said, I was in Middle East, working in the New York University campus in Abu Dhabi. So there was a little band. I was part of that, and then we had
Okay.
I have played djembe in what they call Battle of the Bands, and it was actually real fun.
So you don't just look like a rock star, but you are actually a rock star.
I wouldn't say rock star, but then I really love playing musical instruments. Yeah, because I had the basic training in Indian classical music. As I said, I did my Bachelor of Music in tabla. So when I see a musical instrument, then I feel like playing it. And then when you have that basic knowledge of rhythm and scale, then it's relatively easier for you to pick up compared to someone who doesn't have any musical knowledge. So that's why, yeah, and I try to play different musical instruments.
Now I actually feel under in front of you because I just could not pick up neither guitar
Oh,
or
it's
flute. I have tried playing it, but I could never do it.
yeah, it needs actually especially in the initial stages, it needs a lot of patience, just because you see other people playing beautiful tunes, and then when you were trying your trying to get familiar with the instrument, sorry, so then that's what makes you impatient, and that's the time when many people leave. But honestly, if you persist with that, I mean, just a little bit, then it becomes easier actually later. But yeah,
Okay, coming to another question for many people say that poets are philosophers. Is it also true for you?
I would say it's true for anybody, irrespective of who writes, or maybe someone who might not have written a single word in his or her life. I wouldn't say that person is not emotional or not a philosopher. People would think, I mean, people would continuously think about their past, they will think about their future, they will think about other people, they will get emotional at times. But it's just that some people can organize their thoughts a little bit better than others, and they express a little bit better than others. But you cannot really say that just it's just that the poets only are philosophical or moody.
That's a wonderful thought, actually. Right now, I am not getting any new questions, so
Okay, I'll just extend that answer if you, I mean, until can, you come up with a next question or curiosity. So, you said you have read my poems, a few of them. I mean, given to me, if I could have expressed each one of my thoughts, happy or sad, I would have written millions of poems. But I could express only few of my thoughts in words. So more poems actually have died even before they came into existence. So I think that's the case with that's the case more often than not with all of us, that our thoughts die before even they get a chance to get written. So you think, and sometimes you really feel suffocated that you have this intense thought and you are not being able to write. So yeah, I think all people are philosophers in that sense. And and going back to the previous question, it's easier. Every time it happens with me, I find it easier to express in Hindi. In my blog, if you have read, I have one thought written in two different languages. One is in Hindi, one is in English. And the Hindi one says, "Mujh mein phool nahi aate." It was about fall colors. I mean, you don't get to see that many colors in Assam or most part of India during the fall season. But when you come to Western countries, extratropical countries, you get to see many colors during fall. And fall is something which is very compelling. I mean, for anybody, everybody feels like writing something. If not writing, I mean, if one cannot write or one doesn't feel like writing, of course, people take photographs, which is another way of expressing your thoughts. So, seeing fall colors, I wrote that poem, which is called "Mujh mein phool nahi aate," and I wrote the same poem, translating almost the same thought in English. And I realized my Hindi one sounds better compared to the English one. And yeah, so yeah, that was about the pain or the irony that the trees which are so colorful, the color is not actually due to the flowers. It's basically the leaves, and all those colorful trees are basically flowerless, but still they display such an amazing such an amazing display of colors. So that's what made me write that poem.
So, when was the first time you started
Oh,
writing?
when was the first time? I think I had started writing when I was in my HS first year. I don't remember writing. I had written, but that was in Assamese, and I started writing in Hindi when I was in college, 10 plus 2 days. And I had this big rough copy where I would practice all my college notes. And that copy would have like in places like 4 lines written here and there. And that's where I had written my like first few poems. I and then after like few years when I realized that okay, maybe I should keep those things organized, I tried to find that copy back, but I lost it. So I do not have those poems with me. I would rather say those were not like full-fledged poems, those were more like shairis, and that's what I like writing more, because shairis, like I'm kind of impatient poet. It does, and not exactly impatient to maintain that consistency of thought. It's difficult for me sometimes. So I ended up realizing it's for 4 lines is easier to contain or maintain that thought. Then it's more of a shairi than poem.
Yeah, even in my case, like when I write the poem within 8 lines, it is very simple. But when I try to write something longer, it
Yes.
becomes very redundant. And and sometimes I do it purposely, like to use redundancy to have a greater impact. But uh, sometimes it is unnecessary also, and I
Yes,
throw it
yes.
away.
Many of the poems or whatever you write, uh, like when you read it again after some time, then sometimes you feel like, okay, I think this is not good enough to be shared with people, or you sometimes you feel like changing the words you had written. So before I post it to my blog, that's my policy. Like I write something, I don't immediately post it. I read it after 3 months or 6 months, and then even after that, if I feel like okay, I liked it, I mean I still like it, and then I feel like okay, this is the best I can do, so I can share it.
I particularly like one poem. I guess you know about it, but I would like to share this poem with my listeners also. हैरत है उनको कि
Okay.
इश्क है. I I really like the novelty of this poem actually. So
Sure, sure,
if you
sure.
allow me,
Please.
can I just and please tell me if my
Oh
tone
no,
is not
that's okay. No
bad,
worries.
not. हैरत है उनको कि इश्क है अंदाज़े बयां उनको उनका अनोखा खफा से रहते हैं इतरा के चलते हैं इजहार इश्क से एतराज करते हैं बस हैरत है उनको हैरत है आखिर कि इश्क है शर्त ये भी रखा है कि इश्क हो तो शिर्क हो लेकिन ना इबादत हो ना ही इजाजत हो. That's a very beautiful thought actually. इश्क लहजे में तो मौजूद हो ही, लेकिन लफ्ज भी मौजूद हो. फूलों सा नाजुक हो लेकिन मुमकिन आग भी हो. हर बात में एक कशिश हो, हर कशिश को कोशिश मिले, और कोई कोशिश नाकामयाब ना हो. इश्क ये कयामत तक चले, लेकिन हर दिन हर रात सुबह शाम हर लम्हा नया हो, पहला हो. हैरत है कि इश्क आखिर उनको भी है. So what I like about this is that the intensity expectations that lovers have.
We're expected to, when you love somebody, then normally the beloved expects you to do everything. Like they want you to show it by showing, they want you to show it by not showing. So finally you end up doing things hoping that your beloved will understand, but sometimes they do, sometimes he or she doesn't. But that's what love is, I guess. You just keep trying to impress the person you love.
It's a constant struggle.
It's a constant struggle, and you need to give that assurance that, or you need to be committed that you will love him or her forever. But still that love needs to appear, or you love so much that the love appears new every day. So that's what I had written, I guess, that line where I said Kayamat tak to chale hi. So
it's a very strong emotion, and perhaps that is the reason I like it so much.
yeah. Thank you for reading it out.
I don't know if I did justice to my reading, because
no, that was okay. I mean, I couldn't have. I mean, maybe somebody who is very good at recitation would read it better than you, but that's not me.
I don't know what are the things that goes into the mind of a poem, and like even I am not sure what goes into my mind when I write a poem. So since the idea of this podcast is to encourage more people to express to poetry, can you please share us something that makes you write, like, although I have asked you the question before also, but something that you can that can be applied to most people.
It's difficult to concretize that thought. Yeah, you have asked me before and I have replied it before. I'm just thinking how to make a different reply, or give a different reply, or how to concretize that thought. Like I think one thing for sure, you need to read. So you need to read to, once you understand the feeling, what the poet is telling, or even if you don't really connect with the feeling what the poet might be having at the time of writing, but when you read something, you get some feeling and you see the words that particular poet had used to express that thought. So that's a nice way of understanding how one person is expressing his or her thoughts in words. And then when you go through your thoughts, I mean, you need to have it's not necessary to have tough words or complex words. You can write very simple, use very simple words, yet write deeper lines with deeper meaning. So it's all about connecting with your thoughts, what you were thinking, and try to write it down, being as honest and as true as possible. So, like one of my own shairis I like, which is, I was drinking a glass of sprinkled water, or actually it was Sprite. I was drinking a glass of Sprite and the glass was white, so I could see the bubbles at the bottom of the glass. So I saw those bubbles, like they will last as long as there is Sprite in the bottle, in the glass. Those bubbles will not be there anymore as soon as I finish that glass of Sprite. So I felt like all those are like my thoughts. Thoughts which stay inside me for some time, and with the change of my mood, those thoughts vanish. Then I had written like, मेरे पैमाने के नीचे कुछ सपने पनपते हैं, पैमाने भर की जिंदगी वो भी जिया करते हैं. So they last only lifetime of a glass of water or Sprite. So that is one of my personal favorite. And so everybody thinks, as I said, everybody is a philosopher. I think the thing which makes you able to write is when you see things, concrete things happening outside in the world, and you can connect those things with your thoughts, and then you can arrange or write about those things, and expect or feel that those things happening in the outside world are basically are being able to express the thoughts which are going inside your mind. So it's about describing the outside world, and that description would express the thoughts inside your mind.
So, in short, that reading will make you have a greater word stock, and it will enable you to express your thoughts in a better way, in a structured way
Yeah,
for
in a
being a
in a
poet. So,
concrete way, because like poetry is an expression of your thoughts, and your thoughts are, nobody can see your thoughts, so you need to make other people see your thoughts. So how are you going to do that? So you'll have to use exact words which will be closest to your thoughts, and those words, if they words express feeling, then that's a poem. And if that expression, if you can connect with things happening in daily life, or things which people actually can feel, I mean see and touch, then that analogy works better.
okay.
So in my case, I had connected my fizzling thoughts with the bubbles resting in the bottom of the glass of water. So you can touch and you can see those bubbles, and now I have connected my thoughts with those bubbles. Then it is something concrete which you can feel. Now you can feel the same feeling which I'm having when my thoughts were fizzling out with the swing of my mood. And so that's how I feel I write.
So metaphors make it easier to bridge the thoughts between the poet and the reader.
Yes, yes, exactly. But at the same time, yeah, it's like not always connecting with the poet's own thought. Sometimes a poem would allow the reader to have his or her own thoughts. The poem would act as an interface between the poet and the reader. The poet would write something inspired by his own thoughts, and that poem would inspire the reader to have his own thoughts. So those two thoughts which the poet is having and the reader is having may not be the same. The poem is the interface. So if a poem can trigger a plethora of thoughts inside the reader's mind, those thoughts, even if they're not necessarily same as the ones which the poet was having, I think that poem is a success.
It's like a movie that the number of times it is watched is the number of times it is made. There is a saying like that. So
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's
poem is
like,
like that only. The number of times it has been read, it might have that much meanings.
yeah, I mean, I feel like a poem is like a door between two rooms. In one, the poet is there, in the other room, the reader is there. The door doesn't mean that both the rooms are having the same interior. Those two rooms have their own decoration and interior and everything, but the door is a connection between the two rooms. The door doesn't necessarily guarantee that those two rooms are similar.
And when they both come together, then they meet somewhere.
Yes.
Apart from your own poems, do you like any other poems? You have mentioned Javed Akhtar and Gulzar. So, like any special poems that you like?
It's very difficult to. I mean, my personal favorite would be Gulzar, but uh, I like. There is a poem called "एक कमरा." वो एक कमरा बहुत याद आता है by Javed Akhtar. And there is one poem, I had actually recently read that poem, but I like that a lot. Javed Akhtar's brother.
Yeah, I think you posted in Facebook.
Yes, yes, yes. I had posted. It's called Dusra Ghar. I mean, why I could connect with that poem, because that's specifically written for people who had to leave their home and stay abroad or stay far away from their home, and I could relate to that poem because that Javed Akhtar's brother, his name is not coming to my mind now. He's a psychoanalyst in Philadelphia. He wrote that describing the scenarios which you would essentially see in US or like Western countries or advanced countries. So that poem I like, and it's difficult to identify one poet. I mean, if it has to be a poet's name, then I would of course say Gulzar, and but that doesn't mean that I don't like poems by other poets. There are so many other poems that I like, and Gulzar's one was that मकान की ऊपरी मंजिल पे अब कोई नहीं रहता. So that is one poem, and it comes to your memory like in bits and pieces, and I have very bad memory to recite or tell like a full poem, but then it comes in bits and pieces. But yeah, so I was so inspired by the poem of that poem, मकान की ऊपरी मंजिल में अब कोई नहीं रहता. So I ended up almost writing similar poem, which I haven't actually posted anywhere. If I may, I would like to recite that. If you have listened to that poem, then maybe you would find similarity between this poem and the one I'm talking about, मकान की ऊपरी मंजिल पे अब कोई नहीं रहता. So this one is called Guldasta, and yeah, it's somewhat similar to the one which you had recited, हैरत है उनको. And okay, I will just recite it and you can tell me whether you liked it or not. So it says गुलदस्ता. गिला नहीं है इस बात का कि तुमने जो बात कही थी, शायद जो यूं ही कही थी, वो दिल पे बसा रखा है. कीमती सामान सब फेंक एक पुराना गुलदस्ता घर में सजा रखा है. वक्त लेता है वो बहुत मेरा संभालने में. छुआ नहीं कि एक पत्ता गिर पड़ता है. एक गुलाब जो कि चंद्रमुखी से भी बड़ा हुआ करता था, एक कली बराबर दिखता है अब. कुछ हरे पत्ते थे जो फूलों के बीच बीच में डेकोरेशन के तौर पे लगाए गए थे. खुशबू नहीं है उनमें. रंगों में कंट्रास्ट लाने के लिए लगाए गए थे. कुछ समझौता फूलों ने किया और कुछ पत्तों ने. अब सब सुनहरे दिखते हैं. अब सब में बस एक पुराने का महक आता है. हाँ, और वो जो एक तना है जिसमें से फूल गायब है, वो वही फूल है जो टूट के गिर पड़ा था जब तुमने वो गुलदस्ता पटक के फेंक दिया था. वो फूल मेरे डायरी में है. अब तो वो पन्नों से भी ज़्यादा महीन हो चुका है. बहुत वक्त लेता है वो गुलदस्ता मेरा संभालने में, लेकिन मैंने भी एक तरकीब लगा रखी है. दुआ में उसे अपनी उम्र दे रखी है. Yep.
That's a wonderful poem, and it just sounds like a counter to मेरा कुछ सामान तुम्हारे पास पड़ा है.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. We have grown up listening to those songs and poems, so it's difficult to. I mean, that's why you need to read a lot of poets, a lot of different type of works. Then it. Otherwise, if you keep reading only one kind of poetry, then it's very likely that you will get carried away by that particular style.
Yeah. I don't think anyone from our generation has not written a Gulzar style poetry. So even if they are not a poet in true sense, but they have tried it.
Yeah.
Like he had such a big influence in our lives.
Yes. I mean, the thing I was telling about to you a little while ago, that I read my own poem after like 3 months or 6 months, and then if I still like it, I post it. So that is also something I learned watching a YouTube video of Gulzar. So he said like people are in a rush to publish. So don't rush. You just write and read again your own works. So that's when, I mean, if you still like it, if you keep liking it when you read and reread again and again, then you know that okay, this is something good. If you still like it. So
perhaps I have also seen that video, because when I started, it was around 10 years ago. Before that, I did not even like poetry. So suddenly one day I thought of writing a poem, and I directly wrote it in blogspot.com. So it was not
Yeah,
it started that way, and I wrote poetry for next 2 years like that. And,
yeah.
and
It's.
now
I
I
think.
write in paper
Uh-huh.
actually.
Yeah. For me, I like. I don't. I think I write online. Like, I mean, online in the sense in my computer. I write it, and then yeah, I don't write on paper nowadays. I write on screen, and then keep it for some time with myself, and then like this poem I have read publicly for the first time. This has been there for a long time in my computer.
So have you ever thought of publishing a poetry book or something like that?
Oh, it's not. It will be like I think forever, not ever. It will be like forever. I I always think of publishing someday. So yeah, I would be very happy if I can have few poems which are good and which people would like. I mean, if I feel they're good enough, then I would definitely love to publish. But then after hearing, I mean, after listening to Gulzar's that line that people are in a rush to publish, I I'm like now I'm thinking that okay, I should take time and I should I should keep my poems and see them, review them myself before I decide that okay, they are good, and then maybe I will send them to somebody to review. I mean, yeah, it has to be self-review first, and then somebody, if they decide to review, then someday, hopefully.
And when is that someday do you expect to be?
I don't know. This is something I do totally out of my passion for poetry. So there is no deadline. I don't care how much time it takes. I just want that book or that that those poems to be good. It may be after many years. I don't know how many years, but yeah.
Something that you want to leave as a legacy, more than as a just for getting published.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just don't want to publish and for people would forget that. I mean, if somebody says that okay, this person published only few poems or only one book, but he had the potential to publish many more, which he had written many more poems. I think that would be a success for the book. That okay, people should feel that okay, he should have written more. Then that book would be a public success. So I have like two dreams: publishing a poetry book. I don't know when that would happen, but that's one dream. And second dream is playing in a band.
Okay.
So like playing in a band, like little
Okay.
bigger stage. Like that
Okay.
dream partially had fulfilled when I had played in that band in New York University, Abu Dhabi, Battle of Bands. But I just wanted to be a little more organized than that. That was like we did it very hurriedly. We didn't have much time to rehearse.
Okay.
But that's something, yeah, that's dream number. I wouldn't say place number 1 and 2. Both are like equally important or equally cherished. But
Oh,
yeah, that's apart from my regular work.
okay. With that note, that and hoping that both your dreams come true,
Thank you.
I would like to end this show. And thank you for
Thanks.
being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me.
And it was wonderful talking to you, and it was just plain fun for me.
Yeah, same here, same here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye. Right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
So that was all for tonight. And if you want to get featured in my podcast, please do leave us a voice message or mail me at promatheshborkotoki at gmail.com. And Happy New Year to all of you. Good night. Take care. Stay safe.